Caitlin Clark. Making her fourth All-Star appearance and leading the league in steals.
6 simple words, and the entire basketball universe hit pause. What sounded like a harmless joke instantly turned into something much bigger, forcing everyone to pay attention to who really drives the narrative. Within minutes, the internet was on fire. Opinions poured in, debates erupted, and a league built on controlled storylines suddenly found itself reacting instead of leading. This wasn't idle chatter. It wasn't random drama. It was a masterclass in influence, a reminder of who holds real leverage in the modern game, and it signaled a shift that can't be ignored. Let's rewind to July 2025 in Indianapolis. The WNBA All-Star Weekend was meant to be a showcase, a feel-good moment celebrating the very best the sport has to offer. The stars were aligned, the stage was set, and everything seemed perfectly scripted until it wasn't.
For the culmination of what has been a wonderful celebration all weekend long.
Gainbridge Fieldhouse was overflowing with close to 17,000 roaring supporters. The atmosphere crackled with excitement as the brightest names in the league came together under one roof, ready to deliver a memorable spectacle. From the outside, it looked like another perfect night for women's basketball. But beneath the lights and the highlight-worthy moments, a different story was quietly taking shape, one that would soon take over sports conversations everywhere. Before tip-off, the players had organized a unified message. Walking in as a collective, they made a bold statement, all dressed in matching black shirts carrying the same unmistakable words. Pay us what you owe us. Those words weren't just printed on shirts during warm-ups. They were a declaration. This wasn't about style or appearance. It was a clear act of protest. With the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement approaching its October expiration, the players were making their position unmistakable. They wanted proper compensation. They wanted respect, and they were done waiting for it.
Expiration of the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement, and tensions are running high.
Right now, WNBA players take home roughly 9% of the league's total revenue. Compare that to the NBA, where athletes receive close to a 50% share. The difference is massive. Because of that gap, many women in the league are forced to spend their off seasons playing basketball overseas just to earn a livable income. The stance they were taking wasn't emotional. It was practical. It was organized, and it was long overdue. Everything seemed focused and united. And then Kelsey Plum stepped to the microphone. Plum, a guard for the Los Angeles Sparks and the vice president of the Women's National Basketball Players Association, made comments that immediately shifted the entire conversation.
To the Sparks. This was the first trade in the league history, and Kelsey Plum heads to LA with the 9th overall.
She was seated at the post-game media table beside New York Liberty standout Sabrina Ionescu. Microphones were on, cameras were focused, and every word was being recorded. That's when Plum chose to bring up something no one had even mentioned. While explaining the coordinated shirt demonstration, she pointed out that the plan had come together during a team meeting earlier in the day. Then she added an unnecessary detail. Not trying to call anyone out, she said, but none of the players from Team Clark were there. In an instant, what had been a unified moment turned into a pointed comment that shifted the entire narrative.
Not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that.
For a brief moment, the entire room froze. You could feel the awkwardness settle in. Sitting just inches away, Sabrina Ionescu didn't even try to mask how she felt. She glanced over, clearly irritated, and responded with blunt sarcasm. Yeah, that definitely needed to be said. Her reaction said everything words didn't.
That really needed to be mentioned.
In that instant, the uneasiness was obvious on Sabrina Ionescu's face. She understood exactly what had just happened, and it wasn't a good look. What was meant to be a powerful moment of solidarity, a collective stand for fair treatment and better pay, had suddenly been derailed. Instead of focus and unity, the attention shifted to what sounded like an unnecessary shot at the league's brightest and most marketable player. A conversation meant to lift everyone up had turned into something small and divisive.
Brightest stars in the game, Caitlin Clark going toe-to-toe with the biggest women's basketball star.
The comment was aimed at Caitlin Clark, a player who wasn't even in the building. And this is where the full story becomes important. Clark hadn't attended the meeting, and she wasn't participating in the All-Star game for a very simple reason. She was injured. She had been dealing with a lingering groin issue since the middle of July and was focused on recovery. Instead of being on the court or in meetings, she was back home prioritizing her health and getting herself ready to return.
Caitlin Clark will miss tonight's fever game against the Sparks with a groin issue.
The suggestion that she was avoiding player advocacy or refusing to stand with her peers wasn't just inaccurate, it was unfair. Caitlin Clark had already done more than almost anyone to elevate the entire league. From the moment she arrived, the WNBA experienced a surge like never before. Viewership numbers soared. Jerseys and merchandise sold at record speed. Arenas filled up, and ticket demand reached new heights. Even the league's financial landscape changed dramatically, with expansion fees exploding from $50 million to $250 million in a remarkably short time. In many ways, Clark was a major reason the league now had the leverage to push for better deals at all.
Here comes Clark. This is one thing you get with Clark is great pace and great passes. Found Boston perfectly.
And yet, there was Plum, speaking to the entire sports world as if Clark and her teammates didn't truly care about the movement. The reaction was immediate and fierce. The internet lit up within minutes. Fans accused Plum of sounding bitter, small-minded, and out of touch. Major voices in sports media jumped in as well, including Colin Cowherd, who criticized Plum for targeting the very player responsible for taking the WNBA from struggling visibility to mainstream relevance. He pointed out what the numbers clearly show. Since Caitlin Clark entered the league, everything has changed. Television audiences have grown dramatically. Merchandise sales have reached new levels. Ticket demand continues to rise at a rapid pace. The impact is undeniable.
WNBA is out with new TV viewership numbers. It's been the most watched in the league's history.
Expansion fees had exploded, climbing from $50 million to $250 million almost overnight. Caitlin Clark had become the league's most powerful bargaining chip in negotiations. And yet, Plum chose to publicly attack the WNBA's single most valuable asset, right at the worst possible time. Clark, however, didn't respond. No tweets, no press statement, not a single word of defense. While social media blew up with support for her and think pieces dissected supposed veteran resentment toward rookies, Clark quietly focused on her game. She let the chaos unfold around her while she stayed strategically silent. This wasn't hesitation. It wasn't weakness. It was deliberate, controlled power. Clark knew something Plum didn't. Sometimes the smartest move is to say nothing at all. Let your impact speak for itself. Let your accomplishments do the talking. And then, when the timing was perfect, when the moment was right, she would strike. This was chess, not checkers. While everyone else was reacting, Clark was already 3 moves ahead.
The best get-ahead passer, and her three-point shot.
Fans rallied behind her online. Analysts debated Plum's remarks, and social media bubbled over with outrage. But Caitlin Clark stayed focused on what truly mattered: healing, preparing, and carefully building her empire, step by step. Jumping into the fray too soon would have made her appear defensive, giving Plum's words more power than they deserved. So she held back. Let the backlash do the heavy lifting. Let others spin the story. National commentators weighed in. Colin Cowherd roasted Plum on TV. Social platforms shredded the logic of attacking the league's top star. Even Sabrina Ionescu's famous eye roll became the viral symbol shaping the narrative. Then, at exactly the right moment, Clark made her move. Just one day later, Plum posted on Instagram, almost celebrating All-Star Weekend with a simple caption, "What a weekend!" and photos of her smiling with teammates at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. But Clark noticed what Plum missed. A huge Nike logo appeared in the background. Plum hasn't been a Nike athlete since switching to Under Armour in 2022, debuting her own WNBA colorway. Clark, on the other hand, is Nike royalty in the league, backed by a multi-million-dollar endorsement deal.
Superstar is about to sign a Nike endorsement deal worth $28 million.
She wasn't about to let that slip go unnoticed. Her reply? Just 6 words. "Thank you for the Nike ad." No exclamation points, no emojis, no hostility. Just a razor-sharp, perfectly timed remark, delivered with the calm confidence of someone fully aware of her own influence. The reaction was instant. The internet erupted. Screenshots flooded timelines. Fans debated whether it was petty or pure brilliance. Sports blogs and podcasts analyzed every nuance. In a single sentence, Clark had reminded the world of her reach, her brand power, and her deep understanding of the business side of basketball. Something Plum, despite her years in the league, hadn't quite mastered. The genius was in the layers. On the surface, it was witty, almost playful. But underneath, it was strategic. A subtle, unmistakable assertion of Clark's status as the league's most marketable star.
Clark, one of the most dynamic players in the country.
Plum had unwittingly set the stage perfectly, and Clark delivered a knockout. Every bit of it was calculated, sharp, clever, and just playful enough to sting. It wasn't personal, but it hit with precision. Clark didn't need to list stats, ratings, or revenue figures. 6 simple words said it all. Plum went quiet. No rebuttal, no clarification, no defense. Weeks went by as the story lingered, and the internet dissected every detail. Plum knew she had been outmaneuvered. Any attempt to respond would only make her look worse. In that moment, Caitlin Clark reminded everyone who truly controls the conversation in women's basketball, not through statements, interviews, or press appearances, but through strategy, timing, and presence. She wasn't just a star on the court, she was a master of influence and control. Her dominance isn't measured by points, assists, or highlight reels. It's measured by reading the room, knowing when to act, and just as importantly, when to remain silent. With 6 perfectly chosen words, Clark showed that the future of the league isn't just about athletic ability. It's about intelligence, poise, gaunt and commanding respect both on and off the court. Clark didn't simply respond, she taught a lesson. Power in this era of women's basketball is earned. Timing matters. And sometimes, silence speaks louder than any statement ever could. It wasn't until mid-August, nearly a month later, that Plum finally addressed the situation publicly. She appeared on Sue Bird's podcast, Bird's Eye View, and attempted a reversal. "Oh, I made a bad joke," Plum admitted. "I made a really bad joke."
Oh, I made a bad joke. Yeah, I made a really bad joke. Tough one.
"I honestly was just trying to lighten the mood," Plum said. "I was joking about Team Clark not making it to the meeting either. Our team nickname is Hungover. So I was just like, at least we made it." She went on to admit that she regretted how her comment distracted from the real issue, the fight for fair player compensation in the upcoming CBA negotiations. She stressed that all the players were on the same page. Everyone had worn the shirts, and she never intended for it to turn into a story framed as Caitlin Clark versus the veterans. But the saga revealed something bigger than a clash between 2 stars. It highlighted the complex dynamics currently shaping the WNBA, a league experiencing explosive growth largely fueled by one player's transcendent popularity, while veteran athletes who have been grinding in relative obscurity watch the entire landscape shift beneath them. Make no mistake, the growth is real, and it's transformative. Before Caitlin Clark arrived, the WNBA struggled. Primetime games often felt invisible. Arenas were half empty. Media coverage was scarce. The league was losing roughly $40 million a year. Then Clark arrived, and nearly overnight, everything changed. Television ratings doubled, then tripled, sometimes even quadrupled. Indiana Fever games became must-watch events. Merchandise with her name and number flew off the shelves faster than stores could restock. Ticket prices skyrocketed. The WNBA wasn't just growing, it was evolving, and Clark was at the center of it all.
Caitlin Clark in town. More than $2 million in tickets were sold. That's an all-time WNBA record.
Suddenly, casual fans who never watched a WNBA game before were tuning in just to see what the hype was about. Expansion fees shot up to $250 million as investors finally recognized the league's real profit potential, something unprecedented in its 28-year history. For veterans like Kelsey Plum, a 2-time WNBA champion with the Las Vegas Aces and a proven elite performer, it had to be a lot to process. Plum is remarkable in her own right, averaging over 20 points per game for the Sparks, a former #1 overall pick, a 4-time All-Star, an Olympian, and a Team USA representative. She's earned every bit of her success through talent and relentless work. But despite all of that, Plum has never commanded the same mainstream attention or financial opportunities that Caitlin Clark has enjoyed from the moment she arrived. And that's not Clark's fault. It's the reality of star power, timing, and marketability. Some athletes transcend their sport and become cultural icons. Clark is one of those rare players. It's understandable that some veterans might feel uneasy seeing a rookie instantly eclipse their visibility and earning potential. But that frustration can't be aimed at the person who's literally lifting the league for everyone. The truth is simple. Caitlin Clark's success benefits everyone. Higher ratings mean bigger TV deals for all players. Her merchandise sales generate more revenue for the league. The attention she draws inspires young girls to pick up a basketball, strengthening the talent pool and raising competition for the future. Clark isn't taking opportunities from veteran players. She's creating doors that didn't exist before. Every player in the WNBA benefits from her presence, whether they acknowledge it or not. Increased salary caps, better travel arrangements, improved facilities. All of this is possible because the league has become financially viable and sustainable, and Clark's impact is a huge part of that transformation. Of course, the league still needs stars like Kelsey Plum, Sabrina Ionescu, Aja Wilson, Breanna Stewart, and all the other elite players who make the WNBA worth watching. The ideal scenario is one where every player sees that they are stronger together, that Clark's star power creates opportunities for everyone, and that unity in labor negotiations matters far more than personal grudges or perceived slights. The Pay Us, What You Owe Us campaign was powerful and necessary. Players deserve better compensation, travel conditions, and resources, along with a fair share of the revenue they generate. But the message loses focus when it's coupled with public jabs at the league's biggest star for missing a meeting while injured. Caitlin Clark has navigated this balance masterfully. She has shown respect for veteran players, honoring the legends who paved the way. She has been a team player with the fever, sharing the ball, celebrating teammates' success, and never making everything about her stats. She has used her platform to advocate for women's basketball broadly, not just for herself. When faced with criticism or subtle slights, Clark has responded with silence or understated humor, rather than escalating tensions. That's the mark of someone who knows that her long-term success depends not only on personal performance, but on the health and growth of the entire league. She thrives when the WNBA thrives and loses when the league appears petty or divided. Even when it would have been easy to fire back, she acts to elevate rather than diminish. The 6-word Nike comment was likely the closest she's come to shading anyone, and even then, it was clever and playful, not mean-spirited. It was a masterful way to assert influence without creating drama, a subtle reminder of her market power without openly claiming superiority over other players.
A 4-time WNBA All-Star, making her Olympic debut.
It was a display of confidence without arrogance, subtle yet decisive. The move effectively ended the back and forth, because any response from Plum would have immediately looked defensive or petty. This was social media strategy at a masterclass level, a level of savvy that makes you forget Clark has only been in the league for a single season. She carries herself like someone who's been managing fame and public perception for years, all while navigating this new spotlight in real time. Looking ahead, the Caitlin Clark-Kelsey Plum dynamic is shaping up to be one of the WNBA's most intriguing storylines. Plum has had dominant games. Clark has had her moments. But will this evolve into a genuine rivalry built on mutual respect? The kind that elevates both players and creates matchups fans can't wait to watch? Or will it stay tinged with tension and awkwardness? The kind that has defined their interactions so far. The outcome likely depends on how both players choose to frame their relationship moving forward. If Plum can move past any frustration or lingering resentment and see Clark as an ally rather than a threat, there's huge potential for a positive, competitive dynamic. Two elite guards pushing each other to new heights. Meanwhile, if Clark continues to handle criticism with grace and humor while letting her performance speak for itself, she'll keep winning over even the skeptics who hope to see her stumble. And if both can keep the focus on basketball rather than social media feuds or press conference drama, everyone benefits. Every Indiana Fever Los Angeles Sparks matchup is now poised to be must-watch television, with stakes both on and off the court.
Which one is WNBA players? Do you feel right now you're the best player in women's college basketball?
Fans will be glued to their screens, waiting to see if there's an extra spark when these two meet on the court. Will Plum bring the same intensity she showed in the All-Star game, defending with near playoff aggression? Will Clark make it a point to put up standout numbers against Plum? Sending a message with her performance instead of social media? Or will both handle it like professionals, focusing on the game while the media and fans scramble to manufacture drama that doesn't really exist? The truth is, both players are too smart and too focused on winning to let distractions derail their seasons. Clark is leading the Fever on a push for the playoffs, proving she's not just a regular season star. Plum is helping rebuild the Sparks into serious championship contenders after leaving Vegas. Neither can afford to let personal feelings get in the way of team success. What makes this storyline so compelling is that it reflects a generational shift happening in real time. The veterans are learning to share the spotlight with a new superstar who arrived with more hype, more money, and more attention than anyone before her. That friction is natural, and yes, it's uncomfortable, but it also presents an opportunity. If handled correctly, this could evolve into one of those unforgettable rivalries, the kind that defines an era. Think Bird versus Magic, Jordan versus everyone, LeBron versus the world.
Team had a big dominating game over Caitlin's.
She's got nothing but two All-Stars in front of her.
Fans will be glued.
Magic Johnson, your friend, versus Mr. Larry Bird, simply the best player rivalry of all time.
Clark versus Plum has the potential to be the defining rivalry of this generation in women's basketball. A competition that pushes both athletes to new heights while giving fans storylines they'll follow season after season. Or it could fizzle, fading into just another moment of social media drama that seemed important at the time, but ultimately left no lasting mark. How it unfolds depends entirely on what comes next, on how these two elite players decide to write the next chapter. 6 simple words shifted the conversation, but the bigger question remains. How will the WNBA evolve in a world where one player can command attention, shape narratives, and redefine power in real time? Caitlin Clark isn't just playing basketball, she's rewriting the rules. And if this is only the beginning, the next chapter promises to be fascinating. Who will rise? Who will feel the pressure of the spotlight? One thing is certain, the story is far from over, and the game will never look the same again.